Welcome back to another rip-snorting Noob Spearo podcast interview. It's interviews with spearfishing legends from around the planet. Today, I'm still in WA for this one, but I'm interviewing a bloke from Coffs Harbor. I don't know how that works. No, I do. We were actually staying with these guys over there while Derek and I competed in the Nationals, and Glenn and his family were there, as well as Andrew and his family. Glenn was kind enough to sit down for an interview with me. There's a full video of this one as well if you want to watch it on YouTube. Glenn shooting mackerel, Spanish mackerel in a puddle. He's won numerous competitions. He's, as usual, like a spearo that sort of flies under the radar. You probably haven't heard of his name, but he's a very knowledgeable guy, very clever, and I hope you enjoy today's interview. Guys, before we get there, a couple of quick shout-outs. Daniel bought 99 Tips to Get Better at Spearfishing off noobspearo.com. He says, absolutely awesome. The book contains a wealth of great information from some of the community's top spearos, backed up with top quality photos. Guys, if you shop in your local spearfishing retailer, which I hope you do, ask them if they have 99 Tips to Get Better at Spearfishing and 99 spearo recipes on their shelves. I've still got a bunch of them at home, and I'm happy to share them and send them out to retailers anywhere on the planet, I reckon. But it'd be great to have them in your local spearfishing retail shop. So ask him. Troy says, hey, really love all that you're doing with spearfishing. I've been around for 35 years and I'm still learning so much. The podcast has been an eye-opener as well as a bloody good laugh along the way. When I bought the cookbook, 99 Spearo Recipes, I also bought it for two mates for Christmas. We've all loved it and given recipes a try from it. Well done on that. In your words, you're a bloody legend. Troy, you are a legend. Thank you for that super kind review and for getting that cookbook for your mates. It's been a labour of love. A bit of bad news out of La Jolla. Jonathan Edward Vestoya, I don't know how to say his name properly. From the information that we have, he got stuck in a current off one of the areas where they go spearing off La Jolla and tragically lost his life. He wasn't shallow water blackout, but 54 years old, taken too soon. Again, guys, I bring this to your attention just so we can all just think about what it is that we're doing when we're out spearing, 100% froth on it, but also think about the risks and stuff and tragic passing of a spearo in La Jolla. So, hey, in other news, Megan from Venture Hunting and Outdoors reached out to me. These are partner stores with Adreno, but they're opening terrestrial hunting-based stores as well as, of course, the Adreno spearfishing stores. Check out their brand new store opening in Springwood. I'll let you check it out. Venture Hunting and Outdoor. Here we go. Glenn George shooting mackerel in a puddle. Live the spearfishing lifestyle with Adreno. Today's major sponsor, the staff live it and breathe it. You can shop online or in store. Huge range of equipment. Always growing, always changing. They are the world's largest dive store. They are available just about everywhere. They have hassle-free returns, massive range of equipment, price match guarantee, and you can check them out online. You can even use the code NoobSpearo to save $20 on every purchase over $200 at adreno.com.au. Check them out. Boom! Are you US-based, looking for freediving, spearfishing gear? Neptonics is the best. Their online website's so easy to use. If you've got any questions, Jerry and the team answer questions via phone, email. Anyway, they've got an easy contact form on the site. These guys are absolute legends, and if they sell it, they believe in it, they back it, they use it themselves. It's tough gear that works. Visit neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10% on any order at neptonics.com. That's right, use the code NOOB10, N-O-O-B 10 on your next order. Save 10% at neptonics.com. I love companies and people that challenge and poke fun at political correctness. Fuck the Tax Man does exactly that with gear that we can identify with. The frustration of being taxed. Go to fuckthetaxman.com to check out a huge range of UV-resistant sun-safe shirts, hoodies, shirts, stickers, and more that celebrate the spearfishing life. Recently, I really like the look of some of the boat wraps and boat decals. Go to fuckthetaxman.com, check out what they've got. Use the code NoobSpearo at fuckthetaxman.com and get a free hat of your choice when you spend $100 or more. Check it out at fuckthetaxman.com. G'day guys, welcome back to the Noob Spearo podcast. We're staying here at a house that Glenn and Andrew and their families have been really kind enough to let Derek and I come and join them. We are on the sort of, it's not a rest day, is it, Glenn?
No, well, it wasn't supposed. We're supposed to be diving. What's today? Tuesday. I've lost track.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, yeah.
Supposed to be diving yesterday, but the weather came in, so a couple of days off, and we're back into it tomorrow.
There's a fin swimming and photography thing on today that we're not part of.
Well, we could be.
Yeah.
But we're sort of
we chose
relaxing.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 days left of competition. You and Bo are in it as a father-son thing. The scores come out. You guys are in like 8th position or something, I think, overall.
Yeah. We had a fun day on Sunday down at Augusta and got half a dozen fish. I think the leading guys nailed about 10 or so. So, yeah, we were pretty happy.
Yeah, that's pretty bloody good effort. And not locals and just sort of figuring it out on the fly. And I looked at, I think everyone above you guys was local. Or had locals in the team.
Locals in the team, yeah. It's got to be a big advantage, and good luck to them. You know, we just landed here and jump in the water and swim for your life and see how you go.
Yeah.
You know.
Sounds like you guys swam in the right direction. Did you have a bit of a plan?
We had a bit of a plan, so just generic, like off the map. We did get down to Augusta and had literally an hour in the water a couple of days before the comp and swam probably about 1 kilometre out. And if anyone knows Augusta, you haven't even touched the sides.
Yeah.
I think we swam 7.5 Ks on the day.
Yeah.
And we had a bit of a circuit we planned to do, and we pretty well stuck to that. We probably didn't find the ground we were hoping to find, but we just picked up oddball things on the way.
I thought I think Derek and I swam about 4.5. I reckon that was the smart play. It was fanging until you found fishy ground, then hanging and spending some time, and then fanging again until you found more fishy ground. That seems like maybe the story with a lot of these swim comps. Was that your experience?
Yeah, I think it is. It makes it that much harder when you're just swimming random and you don't know. You know, you've got a plan, but you don't know if that next rock holds fish or you're just going to come up quiet again. So you just got to keep moving until you do find a place. But I think Arnie Piccoli, he was providing a bit of advice to everyone the other day, and he was, it's a balance. And around here, there's fish, but there's fish in holes, and they'll pop their heads out. But sometimes you've got to give it a little bit of time in that location, maybe even make a bit of noise and see what pops out.
You had a couple of good pickups. I heard you talking on the phone this morning too, and I saw some of the fish. I didn't realise you'd shot a kingy though.
Yeah, that was interesting. Like kingies are a bit random, but we put ourselves in the spot. Like that was probably the widest location we got to on the pressure point, and yeah, we could have shot a few kingies in that location. Right. There was bits and pieces flying by. There was we saw a few what we think were bluefin tuna as well, little fellas. Wow. But yeah, it was quite a fishy little place.
And the Sambos there as well, or just kingies?
No, and we were really. We really thought we'd run across a sambo or two, and we never saw one for the whole day.
And the other pickup was the foxfish. Like that's a nice little fish too. They're a beautiful animal. They're
almost they're a nice little fish.
Yeah.
You sort of line them up and think, but beautiful eating. Yeah. And that was a really good little pickup for us. We finally in the last half an hour of our diving, we found some good cavey, ledgy ground because a lot of the stuff we swam over was pretty hard rock. Yeah. And that's not what you want here to find the fish. You've got to find those ledges and those caves.
So limestone over granite.
Exactly.
Mate, it's good to have you on the show. Tom told me a little bit about your experience. You're not like on social media. You're not a guy that self-promotes a lot. You're very well spoken, but you've had a long and fairly illustrious, I guess, spearfishing life. You've won the Coffs Blue Water a number of times. You've represented Australia. We were just talking earlier, you started sharing about an Exmouth adventure. I'm going to ask you about a few of these things, but Tom also says that you are able to shoot Spanish in a puddle. Is that true?
I think Spanish is my go-to. Yeah. That's what I grew up with. My old man and my uncle, we grew up in Coffs. I grew up in Coffs, and that was what we chased. And so, you know, a few of my mates have got a bit of a saying that the Spanish must be attracted to my piss. I find a few. They go all right.
Yeah. He also talked about pearlies and jacks, which like we were chatting yesterday, and you don't like to dive deep at all anymore. Like you say, like 20s, like that's flat out where you want to be at max. But you're still shooting pearl perch, which a lot of people argue are hard to find in sort of sub 20.
100%. Coffs, look, the deeper you dive for pearlies, probably the more opportunity you're going to have. But Coffs is pretty unique, and we find pearlies on the right day, on the right current, in the right time of year, in 10 metres of water. We have. I mean,
Wow.
My young bloke Bo shot a nearly 3 kilo pearly in 10 or 12 metres of water last week or the week before. Good. So it's a great little spot.
I think I seen on his Instagram that pearly, because he's quite a big fella too. Like he's going to be a big man, I think, when he's older. But he's holding it up. It looks like a really decent pearly. I think I seen the one on his Instagram.
Yeah, it was a nice fish. He was pretty chuffed. It's another. Him and his mate Corbin have been tic-tacking, building up the junior Aussie record, and they've broken it a few times now.
Yeah,
so,
righto.
Yeah.
Pearlies, are they a fish that are relatively hard to find but then fairly easy to spear?
Yeah, exactly. And so much like a WA dew, but you don't find, first of all, we don't have the structure in the caves in Coffs that they have here. But the WA dewies you're finding in those caves generally. The pearlies tend to be in a fishy location, maybe near a bit of a ledge, but not necessarily holed up. So they're a bit different, but geez, they look the same out of the water.
I think pearlies have kind of got their own self-protection built into them because they're generally a deep water fish. And when you get them in shallow, it's like, I feel like it's almost a free-for-all. It's like, sweet, we can shoot what we like. Jewfish over here, and you talk with the experienced spearos, they've all got a pretty fierce code of ethics about what they do and don't shoot around them, because they seem relatively populous, but obviously they've had several bans and stuff here, and they are vulnerable, I think, to spearos in general. What do you think, though?
Oh, to me, limited experience, obviously, mate, but from what I've seen, definitely vulnerable. But in saying that, these blokes are still finding them, and Sunday there's at least
15.
3 or 4 between 10 and 15 kilo dewies coming in, and these blokes are pulling them out of under 10 metres of water.
Yeah,
so they're still here.
Yeah.
But I think one of the reasons they're still doing so well is possibly the way they're managed over here too. They're managed pretty carefully, and the bag limits seem pretty heavy to me, but if it works, you go with it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we're stewards. Like we want to see stuff there forever. Like it's cool seeing a free swimming jewfish.
So cool. They are very cool fish. Yeah. And Bo shot a couple of those. Yeah, that's one of our big. That was our target species for Bo coming over here. Let's find you a dewie.
Sick.
And we zipped up to Geraldton the other day and shot a couple with a mate of mine, Nige Circum, and we had a blast.
Yeah, sick. WA is an amazing and wild place, I reckon. I really have a romantic love affair with this place. I think I could live here in a heartbeat. Getting across with the family, though, that might be a different story. But even like we're down sort of the southwestern sort of end. But, I've been as far north as Exmouth, and I would like to go further north, but all of it has a different appeal in different ways. It's very cool. And the people here are pretty chill too, I reckon.
Oh, it's just got a feel about it, a bit of a vibe about it, this place, and you just enjoy being here. And wherever you go, like everyone's been fantastic. Everyone you talk to in the dive community in particular are really, really nice people, really helpful, and the fishing's next level too. So get yourself over here if you can.
We were chatting yesterday. We did the father-son interview, and we sort of touched on a little bit about generational spearfishing, because your son is a spearo, your dad and uncles were spearos. I'd love to dig a little bit more into that and what it's like learning from your dad and then teaching your son. Like I'd like to hear a bit more about, because sometimes old school our dads and their dads were pretty like rugged at times with the way they taught us. There's a lot of sink or swim about it. Was that the case with you, or how was your dad?
Yeah, I guess I probably done it slightly differently, but I wouldn't change a thing. Back in the day, it's jump in the water and do your best, but it was all homemade gear. Like literally, we were making our own guns from nothing. So you'd go out and you'd buy an undersea trigger mech, and you'd probably buy yourself a big piece of timber and a plain handle, and you'd get a piece of sprung steel, and that's it. So you're making your own spear. We would get that chrome dipped. We would make our own floppers. Everything from scratch. So it was different, but it was, you learn from scratch, and there's nothing like that.
Yeah. So we're spoilt now?
We're very spoilt now, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I
seen Simon Tripp the other day. He had a bloke in the shop. I think they'd been in Indonesia or something, or somewhere like that. And a bloke had made a flopper out of a teaspoon. And I was like, holy moly, like, you see stuff like that and then you go, we're so lucky. Like, we're so fortunate.
To be able to walk down the shop and buy yourself a bag of floppers.
Yeah.
I remember, making these. It'd take you hours to make these things sometimes. Yeah. Just go and buy a piece of flat stainless and off you go. And
just beat it into shape with a hammer on an anvil or something.
That's it. Just wrap it around and work it, cut it out, maybe even with depend on what we had at the time, a hacksaw, and just work it from scratch, get on the grinder, get on the drill press.
Yeah.
And just make it work. And to get those right, floppers, there's a bit of mucking around.
No, 100%, yeah. I remember watching a tuning video from Rob Allen back in the day, just with a ballpoint hammer, and then and just sort of learning how to mushroom it so that it there's that trick where you whack the shaft and then the flopper stands up. Is that sort of still the way you tune a flopper? I mean, how do you do it now?
Yeah, much the same. I've got a ball peen hammer and it's just trial and error and just play around.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still crap with gear. Like, I think part of it is just probably being spoiled, and obviously I prioritize different things, but I mean, sometimes there's no excuse when your gear shits itself and you don't know how to fix it. It's kind of embarrassing. It's great to, like, spearos are so self-contained and ingenuous. Spearos are also incredibly tight generally, but like you're a DIY gear guy still, or have you got laser as you got older, or what does it look like now?
Oh, well, I don't make my floppers anymore. But rubbers, changing floppers, playing with line, anything like that. I mean, I've been running just since through the 80s and the early 90s, we're exclusively timber guns, and my go-to, my mackerel gun is still my homemade timber gun.
Yeah, right.
And it works a treat. And if you got a gun that you point it and it goes where you point it, you don't change it. But since the sort of the mid-90s, I've still used, and I'm still using for this comp, a Rob Allen railgun, the same gun that I probably bought in 1993 or something.
Yeah.
And it works a treat. And if you get something that works, really, why change? And I've never gone rollers, and I'm not bagging out, each to their own, and they're brilliant. I've seen them.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. But I guess I'm a bit old school, and if it works for me, I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah. There's something to that too. 100%. It's just like you got a recipe. It works. You shoot fish. Why are you going to keep
That'll do me.
Because there's also an adjustment period too. Like, have you had to play with rollers at all? Because like the aim, everything's a little bit different, and then you end up missing a few fish. And when you're used to shooting fish all the time, and then all of a sudden you have a couple of hours of like missing and relearning everything, it's frustrating.
Well, I've let my mates do the hard work in a way. Like, I've got a couple of mates who have gone to them, and they've tried them, and they've ran them for 6 months, and they've gone, nah, I'm going back. And I thought, that's good enough for me, because I know these fellas and they know what they're doing. And I've got, again, what I've got's working. Maybe I don't have, the range on a real short gun that some of these things have, and that's the big advantage I see with them, that you can get away with maybe. And in a comp like this, it could be handy, a little 900 or a metre gun with enough range, but also that versatility in the caves.
Yeah.
Because I'm running a 1.2 here, and that's probably a bit long, but I wasn't going to change. I know that works for me, so stick to the plan and don't suddenly pull. I've got guns galore on the shelf, but I know what really works, and that's what I stick to.
Is that your timber gun you're using in this?
No, I've got the old 1993 Rob Allen rail, aluminium rail gun.
Okay.
Simple.
What's your timber gun that you made?
So I made it out of a piece of mountain ash, and I got it sized, whatever it was at the time, 28 mil wide, I think, and a big enough piece so that I could cut two guns. And I literally cut the whole gun out, including the handle in one piece.
Oh, wow.
And shaped it all up, a bit of stainless rod through the handle, and just shaped it all up from scratch.
Far out.
I've got a stainless reel. It was one of the Western Australian boys' reels, I think, originally, that I think the Paxmans might have started making way back. And I've just still got that. And I'd be devastated if I lost that gun. I've shot some pretty awesome fish with that gun, and it just does the job.
It's not enclosed track. It's just just a rail. Yeah.
Just a rail, a couple of 16 mil rubbers, 7 mil shaft. I think it's a 1.8 shaft.
Yeah.
And two floppers.
Yeah. Oh, you like the double flopper?
Oh, particularly, I'm not running it here, with the little fish, but when you get onto the Spanish, you lose too many, where if you've got that little, I like a little short front flopper.
Yeah.
And then a big long second flopper.
So when they tear, can you feel when they tear off through that smaller one, or?
Well, I think that the advantage of the smaller one is particularly when, say, you haven't driven the shaft right through, and maybe you've hit the spine, and a little short one up the front there will grab something, and it'll hang on.
Righto. Okay, interesting. And some of the stuff you must have learned taking down big dogtooth. Tom did tell me that you, after the sharks had at this dogtooth, it was still 80 kilo or something.
It was 80, probably 70 odd. No, it was 70 odd before the sharks had a go.
Oh, okay.
And the sharks pretty well took out, I'll get you a photo, and the sharks pretty well took out both sides, including most of the guts. and she went 45 with the leftovers.
Oh, holy moly.
It was a fun story. I was diving with a mate of mine and my dad, so Andrew Clough, and he a lot of the Mackay boys that know him, they have
the Coffee Challenge.
Yeah.
The
Cluffy passed away only a couple of months after that. We were out on Holmes Reef, out in the Coral Sea, and Cluffy had this big giant flasher like you wouldn't believe. It was like a lunar landing bloody spaceship. And these couple of doggies came along, and Cluffy dropped it straight down on them, and one was about probably 70 and one was about 50, and Cluffy dropped straight down. We got, Coral Sea, you got 40, 50 metre viz. Simple, right on top, easy shot, bang, and the fish kept swimming. And I think he just got, he's a great diver, but I think he just misjudged the viz and the size of the fish. So I've gone, you beauty, here's my chance. So I dropped down on the same fish and nailed it straight through the top of just behind the head, and it was off into the abyss, and my two floats disappeared.
Oh, what's that feeling like?
Well, I'm thinking, the rest of this trip's going to be interesting because there goes all the gear. And I'm bobbing around in the middle of the Coral Sea in 500 metres of water just out off the drop-off, thinking, well, that's about it. And I said to the boys, well, just go and get the boat. I'm going to hang around a bit and come and get me, once you've got the boat. And they're gone, and next thing you know, I'm looking down, and here's two floats just coming up out of the abyss, just real slow, with two sharks hanging off this fish, a couple of the old silver fringes. So once they came up far enough, I went down and sort of shooed them away, and there was the leftovers. So
Oh, okay. So you did they give you much more curry after you?
Oh, fortunately there was only 2 on it.
They're big, eh? They can be quite big.
And mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember a coral sea trip previous to that down at Wreck Reef, and we got there on the Booby Bird. We jumped in the water that afternoon and I shot a nice doggy, and for the rest of the trip I had a mate of mine, Wade, who I've done a million dives with, great bloke, great diver, and we spent the whole trip trying to get him a doggy, and every single doggy got sharked.
Oh,
he must have shot about 10.
That's not uncommon by the sounds of it. It's like with those, lucky you only had 2 silver fringe, I guess. Like with is it? Do you work a hardcore team to try and land fish, and does it work? And what have you found does work to increase those odds of bringing them back and putting them in the boat?
Yeah, no doubt. A team works best, but with the dogtooth, the challenge is you shoot them, and if you don't hurt them, they go deep, and it doesn't matter how many people you got.
Yeah, right.
I remember, a lot of guys went to prangers for a while.
Yeah.
And they're just going, all right, well, we can't land these fish unless we stone them. So it's a pranger or nothing. We've got to kill them first shot. I never tried that, but, there's definitely sharks. They're like a pack of dogs, aren't they?
Mm.
And the more people you have to work against them, the better you're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they're risk averse, but up there they seem to just be stupid, like at times. And sharks, when they number up, and sometimes it's the smaller ones, as you know, like they just go stupid, and it doesn't really matter how intimidating you are. They're going to do whatever they want to do.
And you've got to be so careful too. You just never know when just a rando bite's going to come your way. So you've got to be on the ball the whole time.
Yeah. With those silver fringe whalers, how did you scare them off?
I swim at them.
Yeah.
And that's how I swim. That's how I scared those other ones off. I'm like, this fish is still here. It's big, and you're not having it. So I was on them, and I just showed aggression.
Yeah.
And they, if there was more than a couple, I've had some pretty interesting experiences with sharks, and I can tell you a couple of stories about that. But these, when there's only a couple, I think you're not so bad. You've got more chance anyway.
Are you in the market for a new spear gun? Killshot Spear Guns has got blue water wahoo tuna guns, open track spear guns, enclosed track spear guns, rear handle enclosed tracks. Check them out at killshotspearguns.com. Even better, I've got some good news for you. You can save $30 on any Killshot Spear Gun at killshotspearguns.com. Use the code Noob. If you're in store, just say, crikey, mate, or say Shrek from the Noob Spearos sent you, and you'll save $30. Ed Martin at killshotspearguns.com. Check them out. There's that old chestnut, never drink coffee before going diving. I don't know about you, but I break the rule every time. And once you've had a dog and gun coffee, you might find it hard not to break that rule as well. Dog and gun coffee are specialty beans sourced from the best coffee growing regions from around the world and roasted by proper coffee nerds intent on fueling outdoor nuts like you and me. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. That's right, use the code NOOB10 to save 10% at dogandguncoffee.com.au. Check it out, legends. To make the most of your spearfishing trip, charter or competition, I am putting together a 50-day Spear Ready program so that I can be in the best condition to make the most of this WA comp. It's a big swim comp, shore-based, and big swims for the day. I am not carrying a hell of a lot of physical conditioning because just due to my life and lifestyle. It's a 50-day program incorporating strength and conditioning, nutrition, dry and pull training, and everything else with a bunch of experts. I reached out to a whole bunch of legends I know, like Adam Stern, Jared Rosenberg, strength and conditioning coach, and we put together this program basically to get the most out of our bodies and make the most of these opportunities. Sometimes they're only once in a lifetime. You really want to arrive in the best possible condition that you can be. So Spear Ready, 50-day program to help you gear up. Go register, noobspearo.com/Spear Ready. The other end of this, like of your spearing life, like you've enjoyed all the different aspects of it, I think, from what I can tell. Competitive spearing's a fairly new thing for me. You seem to have your head around it, and you've won comps before. What's it like? Does it go to your head? Because you're a bit older now. When you look around and reflect on it, when you won a comp, do you start to think like, Jeepers, I'm good. Where does it affect you? I'd love to know.
Oh, I don't think it affected me.
You're pretty down there. That's why I thought I'd ask you.
Yeah, there's no doubt that, I think I said to you the other day, I'm comps for me are a little bit, for personally, it's a bit of take it or leave it. But if I'm in a comp, I'm going to go hard.
You're having a go.
I'm having a go. And I want to do all right. And the Blue Water Classic, that's kicked off. I was in the Coffs Club and worked with the likes of Dave Birch to kick that off back in 94 or 5.
It's a very well-regarded comp.
It's a great comp. And look, Birchie did an amazing job setting it up. The first classic we ever had, we had people from all over the world. It was phenomenal. And that comp I dived hard in for from 94 onwards, and 2002 I finally nailed it. And I was pretty stoked.
Yeah, I bet you were.
Yeah, it was one I'd been sort of pushing for a long time. That was the comp I wanted to win. I never did. This is only my second Aussies. I never really did too many of never chased the state title. I did all right in one state titles, but that was about it. And I never chased any Aussies other than that one. So it was just the local stuff. I was happy just diving local. And if there was a comp there, if there's a comp in Coffs, well, I'm going to go in it.
Yeah. So the competitive side emerges.
Yeah, it's there.
It's very different than just going spearing, isn't it?
It is, and give me a choice and I'm just going spearing.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just get out there and just no stress.
Yeah.
I don't stress, and that's the good part about, where I am now. I can go diving anywhere and it's just
fun
in the water and fun and cruising.
Yeah. Yeah. Being part of that generational thing, if we can tie it back into that, so you're in the water with your dad and your uncles, and you've got this made-up bit of kit. What was the progression like for you? Like, what are your earliest memories, and what are the most formative memories when you started?
Well, the very earliest memories are sitting on the rocks watching Dad grab abalone off Muttonbird Island in the harbour in Coffs Harbor and wishing I was in there. I want to be in there. I want to be in there. And that little progression, or part of that, was back in the marina, and I'd swim along the inside of the marina. Dad would walk up the top. Glenn would fire a shot and hit a rock, and Dad would have to climb all the way down the rocks, reload the gun for him, climb back up, and off you'd go again. And 2 minutes later, away you go again. So, he put in a lot of time with us. So we started, from the basics on the rocks. But pretty quickly, we were pretty lucky.
Your brother, older or younger?
Younger.
What's his name?
David, yeah. He's a couple of years younger. So both of us got into the spearing at pretty young ages. I probably started when I was 6 or 7. But we progressed out around the islands in the boat pretty quick. I look at my young fellas now and I watch them come through, and for whatever reason, Bo was shooting stuff that there's no way I was shooting at 13 years old, Yeah. They've progressed next level really fast.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, because, we've gone the same, and maybe he's just going to be a bit of he's doing all right.
Yeah, it looks like it. Well, you guys, like we talked about earlier, where you're coming in the comp standings, and he seems keen. He seems like he might have caught a bit of your competitive vibe too. Yeah, he doesn't mind it. Riley, my other fella, he's a great little diver too, but he doesn't have that competitive when it comes to diving. Yeah.
He's like, I'm just cruising. And you put him in a comp, and it's like, I'm not shooting that.
Yeah.
I'm not shooting that. And but he's the bloke that comes back with the massive snapper or the massive mackerel. Or,
yeah, right. How old's he now?
He's 19 now.
Okay, cool. Just the two boys?
Just the two boys, yeah.
So 19 and 16
19
or
and
9 and
16?
15? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Righto, 3-year gap.
Yeah.
Are they competitive between themselves when they're out?
Oh, they give a pretty solid ribbing to each other. Yeah, don't worry about that. But that's not only when they're out. That's any time.
What about you and your brother? Did you guys have some friendly competition?
Probably not so much. Dave was, he loves it. He's into it, and he'll get out whenever he can, but he's probably hasn't pushed it as far as I have.
Yeah, righto.
So, and he's less competitive as well.
Yeah.
He's a bit more like along the Riley lines. And
righto.
He'll jag a pretty good fish, but he's just cruising around.
That'd be a pretty cool, like I can just see doing a camping spearing trip. You, your brother, and your boys. That'd be a fun time. Like memories are forged in the ocean. I think it's a pretty cool thing to do with your family and the people closest to you. Like sometimes with spearing, you forge bonds with people that you'd never really come across in life otherwise, and then you end up forming friendships through spearfishing. But it's cool to do the other way, where you go in with your friends and family and they come along on the journey with you, even if they've got different motivations, I guess.
Isn't it great? Yeah, it's just Dave's got a young son too, who's about 13, who's coming through and really loving his fishing and spearfishing now too. And we get away on whenever we can on little trips, and there's nothing like it. Like those trips, and we did one last year over to New Zealand, and down into the fjords through Darren Shields, and this was for Riley's 18th, effectively, and epic.
Yeah.
Absolutely epic, and things you never, ever, ever forget.
Yeah. It's not something a lot of people think about either. Like, why would you go, down, temperate, cold water? Because the spearfishing is much different in colder places, and it's not the glamour dogtooth stuff. It's quite rugged and but it's very there's a real appeal with Norway at the moment and places like that, I think Fjordland's got its own kind of rugged natural appeal, especially when people learn a bit more about it.
It's unreal down there. And look, when it was first sort of suggested, I think my brother sort of started looking into it, and I'm like, really? I mean, we could go to up the Ribbons or the Coral Sea, 30-degree water.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Chasing a few crays, but the trip was just fantastic. You're chopper riding across the Alps into a charter boat in the fjords. The fjords are protected water generally, crays like you wouldn't believe, full of blue cod. It's a really relaxing trip.
Yeah.
Because you're only diving 10 or 15 metres of water, not even that generally.
Yeah. Scallops as well down there?
You can find them, but not so much down there. It was more the crays and a few pawa.
Because they have there's often a thermocline, isn't there? And it's fresh water on top and salt underneath. And then you get, because I've heard you get black coral in sort of 12 metres and stuff, which is normally found past 100.
Yes, there was quite a bit of black coral there. The water, you look at the water and you go, oh, I don't know if I want to get in there. It's 13 degrees and 2 metre viz. But it's 2 metre viz literally for the first 2 metres.
Yeah, right.
And you dive through that layer and it's beautiful water.
Yeah.
We had generally probably 15 metre viz underneath that, up in the fjords. It's
crazy. Fantastic.
So dead flat and just full of life.
And in terms of the topography above the water, it's some of the highest rainfall in the world, isn't it? And it's pretty rugged country, I've heard.
Very rugged. We're also hoping to find a red deer or something like that. We actually organised one day where a chopper was coming in and he was going to take us up to the top of the hills to walk around on some of the open country and find a red deer, which is a very common thing. Unfortunately, the weather came in, but, there's so much opportunity there. And we actually ended up finding one of those for Riley back at Queenstown on our last day of the trip.
Oh, beautiful.
So that was pretty awesome. There was a fellow there that we hooked up with that the Kiwis, great blokes, and not blowing smoke up your ass, mate. But there's I tell you what, some of those will live the life. Those guys, they know how to work the outdoors, and it's pretty awesome.
It's celebrated in New Zealand, which I'm still glad to see. There is a bit of a fight, and there's a fight in a lot of our Western countries now with people with big ideologies that are trying to almost shut down our lifestyle, whether it's terrestrial hunting or under the water hunting. And I think in New Zealand that way of life is still fairly well defended. And I'm hoping that for generations to come we still see it, because it's we're under attack, I think.
We are, totally. And I love the way the Kiwis have defended it. And you get over there and, my family's from over there. So it's like a second home. And it's like it feels to me like going back to Australia in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's just because of the way they're able, it's not a nanny state.
Yeah.
We're a nanny state.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny, it's a cultural observation, right? But like in New Zealand, I'm pretty sure that you're not allowed to sue the government if your kid gets hurt in a park. Like, it's just the way it is. It's like if you take your kid into a park and they get injured, you're assuming risk when you go in to use the park. So I feel like even the kids' parks in New Zealand are better designed. Like, you can actually proper hurt yourself for a start, but because of that, it's actually more fun. And I think here, like, there's not that legal protection. So parks are like almost like you enjoy them when you're a toddler, and then they lose all their appeal because there's no real risk involved.
I love that. I don't know what they've done legally, but I'm aware of that. And you look at the spectrum, and to me, you've got kind of New Zealand on one end, and you look at like the litigation nature of the US, and we're somewhere in the middle, heading to the US, and I love where New Zealand sits.
Yeah, I do too. I think part of that is and Australia to another extent. Tasmania's probably still got it. It's like less populous, removed from like large cities, for the most part, and tucked away. Yeah, we don't have hostile neighbours on a border. It's just a bit of smack talk between Australia and New Zealand. That's pretty much it.
It gets a bit hostile on occasion.
Yeah, I don't mind a good joke. All right, let's talk about, we'll go back to hunting mackerel in a puddle. For people that are, maybe they don't even live in an area of the world where they have Spanish mackerel available, can you just talk to me about the appeal of hunting them as a species? And maybe a memorable one might tell the story a bit better.
Oh, I guess they're just one of those fish that it just keeps bringing you back, and they're just being down. I love hunting them on the coast. That's my favourite stuff, in the dirty water. And you're down there, and they're not one of those fish where you need to dive to the bottom. If you want to hunt Spanish mackerel, you don't dive to the bottom, because you want them to see you, and you want to use their curiosity. So my technique is probably diving down, first thing is planting yourself in the right spot, the right location. And in Coffs, we don't generally burley for them. We don't use flashes. We don't need to. If you know where the locations are where they're going to be, and you're putting yourself in that right spot on that right day, and it's all about reading the conditions and then jumping in the water and then reading exactly what's going on, and then put yourself in that location. If I'm hunting Spanish mackerel, I'll just stick myself in that location, and I'll just go up and down, up and down, up and down, and they'll find you. Like, they're a pelagic fish, and they're swimming around randomly all over the place. If you're doing the same, you're reducing your chances of running into the things. So it is a very mackerel-focused way to dive, but if you want to get mackerel, that's your technique. So I don't know. I've had plenty of obviously pretty fun encounters with mackerel. One of my most memorable is actually my biggest, and in fact that was out off Cairns.
Okay. And
this was way out on the hard line, out off Cairns on a reef, and this thing we were just drifting along looking for trout actually. So it was very different to what we do back in Coffs, but this thing just showed, and I shot it, and it played up a treat, and we had no idea. We were in crystal clear water, and I was thinking when I shot this thing, oh, that's a pretty nice fish, that's 15, 20. And by the time we got it back to the boat, this thing went 35 kilo or something. It was ridiculous. And a dinosaur head on it, it was this real skinny.
Have you got a photo of it?
Yeah, I do. All right,
I'm going to link it up today in, this one's going to be noobspearo.com/George. We'll do that. It's your surname, because we've got Glenn and Bo as some that are competing over here, and it's a bit of a family legacy. So we'll go noobspearo.com/George. I'm going to link up some of the images that we're talking about. I'd love to see a photo of that mackerel if you got it.
I'll tell you the other one that I really remember, and that's my boys. The first mackerel that my boys ever shot, so they both shot at the same time, out of the same school. That was very cool. So their first Spanish ever, Bo's 13, and Riley's 15, and we're onto a few fish this day, and I'm ducking down and I'm pointing at this one and pointing at that one, and the spears going everywhere. Eventually a school came along and these boys shoot one each. And Riley's first Spanish ever, stoned it, 28 kilo. Thanks very much. He's like, this is easy. What's going on, Dad? And Bo too. Bo shoots one, and it went 16 or 17 or something, a really nice fish. Toes him off. I said to Riley, all right, you look all right. I'm going with Bo. Took off with Bo. We got that fish back. On the way back, he's like, Dad, there's more. So we reload the gun and he shoots another one.
Oh,
so
wow, that's amazing.
That was probably my most memorable day, having the boys shoot their first mackerel.
When they're on, eh?
Oh, it's great.
Oh, I love it. Some of my favourite moments, just being surrounded by them. Because, like, when you haven't seen them for a while and then they come in, I always get my heart rate always goes boom. But after you've been looking at them for half an hour, you start to relax, and then you get but it's still frothy as like.
I love it. I think I've got to a point now where, and that's a big part of it, is being able to be totally relaxed even when you see them. They can't know that you're wanting that fish, you know. So you know, I all often, even if I see a fish and it's not sort of coming in, I'll literally sort of back off, and I'll not swim in the other direction, but I'll deliberately pull the gun back, and I'll deliberately sort of make it clear to them that I'm not chasing them. And they'll just turn, not 8 times out of 10, they'll turn straight around.
Yeah, righto. Do you do that dirty trick where you follow behind them as well in mid-water and then you get them to turn?
Oh, I've done plenty of that, but that's the
blind spot?
That's the last resort.
Yeah.
If they're on their way, shoot them up the arse.
All right, cool, Glenn. Let's talk about scary stuff. I know you've been diving a long time. I want to hear. You alluded to some shark stories earlier, but feel free to share a few if you like. And then I always love to hear about what you learned from them.
Yeah, I learned a really good lesson at North Stradbroke a long time ago. So this was back in the day before there was some closures around Flat Rock.
Yep.
And we were chasing wahoo, and I'd sort of swam off on my own a little bit, and I tend to do that, and I'm not promoting that. But, I'm a bit of a loner when it comes to the spearing. My boys have changed that up a little bit. I hang with them, obviously, but I love being alone in the water. And this Spanish came along, about 20-odd kilo probably, and I shot it, and me and my reel gun. I tend to chase Spanish just with a reel gun.
Okay.
And the fish took off, and straight away you can see this load of bullies, these load of bull sharks off after it. I thought, oh, shit, here we go. So I reefed it in as quick as I could, which wasn't quite fast enough, and probably got the fish about 10 or 12 metres underneath me. And there was about 8 big fat bull sharks, about 8 to 10 foot long, like big fish on this mackerel. And they demolished it.
Yeah.
In about 10 seconds, this 20-kilo Spanish disappeared. And, of course, once that disappears, they're in a bit of a crazy frenzy and they think, rightio, what's next? And they look up and here's Glenn on the surface, and I've got my spear down there with the shark. I'm on a reel gun, so my gun's back behind me. I've got nothing.
Yeah.
And they all came for me. And one flew right up out of the water beside me. One whacked me, just rammed into me. And I remembered this was pretty hectic. And it's a sort of situation where if one just decides to have a bite, you're going to disappear too pretty fast. And I remembered that we got an old fella in the club who used to be a gun diver who dived for Australia way back in the sort of the 60s, 70s. Wally Gibbons, his name was.
Yeah.
And he was a patron of our club. And Wally said to me once, he said he'd had an encounter that sounded a bit like what I was in at the time. And he said he threw this is what I did, threw your arms and legs out, make yourself as big as you can, and literally, and I screamed at these things in the water, like literally made a lot of noise and yelled at them. And believe it or not, it backed them off.
Yeah, right.
And it backed them off just enough to get that spear back. Jab 2 or 3, And, mate, within 30 seconds, they were all gone again.
Yeah, yeah.
They were all gone. And my lesson from that, I've talked about pulling that dogtooth up and fending off those sharks. There was a couple of sharks. Now, this was a situation where I had pretty brown pants. And I was, it was what I called a bit of near death. This was pretty hectic. And in that situation again, where there are so many nasty fish looking at eating your fish, there's only one place they're going to go next. Well, get out of sight.
Yeah.
Just turn around, let them have it, but don't just hang out. Get away. And I've done that a few times with the wahoo since, where a similar situation was happening. As soon as you're another 20, 30 metres up the road, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I got a mate who used to, a good mate of mine, Mick Glenn, and he used to spear a lot of wahoo up there. And he got to the point where he'd just shoot a wahoo, call the boat over, get in the boat, and hope you can pull them in.
Yeah,
because if you don't get them in fast, the sharks are going to get them. And I had another situation up there actually in the same area with my mate Wade again, and we were shooting quite a few wahoo. And my brother was in the boat, and Wade and I had agreed, this area is pretty nasty. So if someone shoots a fish, the other bloke's going to ride shotgun. And, of course, we both shoot a fish at exactly the same time out of the same school. That's how it works, isn't it? Yeah. And Wade goes one way and I go the other. And fortunately for me, one of the great things about diving with Wade is Wade's a shark magnet. So I'm feeling pretty good. And I go one way, land my big wahoo, never saw a shark. My brother went over to Wade and first Wade pops his head out of the water. He said, "Dave, I'm going to get eaten. Get me out of the water." Every single shark chased Wade. And this is the same fella that had those doggy issues years ago. So, yeah, he's had a few pretty interesting experiences with big tigers up the ribbon too, where he's actually literally had a shark eat his gun, massive tiger come up from nowhere out of the blue, and literally he stuck the gun down its throat, and that's the only thing that saved him. It was going to eat him.
Is that video? Was there a video of that?
No, I don't think so.
I've seen a similar situation.
Yeah, it's pretty
Tigers
crazy.
are weird, eh? Like I always thought they had two modes, but then they can be very erratic too.
They're two modes is kind of right. Like I've never had a nasty run-in with a tiger, but you can see it. They've got no fear. And even the little ones, they look like they're not a threat. They're just cruising around, everything's good, but they can turn on a dime, and that's your challenge.
Yeah. Have you seen when they've gutted tiger sharks?
No.
They call them the garbage suckers of the animal kingdom because they find gumboots inside
Try
them.
anything.
Yeah. They just it's weird.
Yeah.
They're a weird animal. I love being in the water with them though. Big ones as well.
Very cool animals.
Yeah.
I've never had an encounter with a massive one. And we don't, for whatever reason, they're around Coffs, and it's a bit like great whites. I've never had too many encounters with great whites, but they're there. Yeah. I mean, those things are there all the time.
I love that feeling underwater when you pull the trigger and you know exactly where that shaft is going. You want something dependable. You want to put that fish that you've been chasing for a lifetime in the boat, in the cooler, in the esky, in the chili bin, if you're in New Zealand. Why do we call all these things different names? Anyway, today's show sponsor, KillshotSpearguns.com, make awesome wooden timber spear guns, a fantastic shooting platform. If you've ever shot a big timber gun, you know the reliability that you get from these things. He mostly makes enclosed track spear guns. Visit him at KillshotSpearguns.com. Use the code Noob to save $30 on any Killshot spear gun. This podcast is brought to you by aqualite.com.au. This is the best solution, bar none, for staying hydrated in the ocean. If you're a Spearo, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's a game changer. If you're doing extended trips and the cramp starts to set in and the old body's telling you, hey, that's enough, just get hydrated and it will save you a whole heap of woe. Get Aqualite at aqualite.com.au. It's scientific rehydration that Spearos know and trust. I know because one works there, and that's why we've set up this discount code for you, 10% off when you use the code NoobSpearo at aqualite.com.au. Check it out. Australian-made hydration products tailored for spearos and a whole bunch of other people that suffer from dehydration too. But check it out at aqualite.com.au. Use the code NoobSpearo to save 10%. Sometimes with weather and commitments, it's a long time between drinks in your spearfishing journey. If you want a dry training program that can keep you in some kind of shape for spearfishing, check out Ted Hardy's 28-day freediving transformation at noobspearo.com/Ted. That's noobspearo.com/Ted. Now, the 28-day freediving transformation is just a practical dry training plan that Ted Hardy will walk you through, and it will help you get results even if you can't get wet at the moment. Check it out at noobspearo.com/Ted. You also competed in the Worlds for Australia. You went to Brazil. That'd be a surreal experience. Like, what was that like going over there and then looking at competitors from all these other countries, and you're all landing in one country that's very different than here? And then you're going chasing fish. Like, Brazil's a kind of a crazy spot in terms of the variety of fish life that they get too. I'd love to hear a bit more about that experience.
Yeah, it was awesome. So that one Aussies, I did go in back in about 2001. I went all right. So I got in the team. That was a comp out of Townsville. I like the reef. I know the reef pretty well. So yeah, I did all right. Got in the team, and so off we went. Rachel and I have gone. Righto, well, we're travelling for a while where we're here, so we spent a bit of time travelling in the lead-up, actually, and did some pretty serious hiking and stuff like that, which I figured it's going to be good for the fitness. And then met the boys over there in Rio. There was Paco and Arnie Piccoli and Gunther Frengel, and Mick Carey was the team manager. And we all hooked up, and Rach was still there, my wife, and we all headed out to a place called Cabo Frio, which is a couple hundred k's east of Rio.
Okay.
The water was pretty chilly, so we were in an area where it was more temperate water.
Yep.
Brazil's got everything. As you say, it's such a giant country. So, but we were in that temperate stuff, and there was a lot of stuff that a lot of fish in the comp, like a sort of a pink mau sort of thing, a little bit darker colour. I can't remember what they were called, and you got your dusky groper and. Now it's the odd kingy and the odd trevally and all sorts of other bits and pieces. And just to be rubbing shoulders with some of those people, the likes of the Spanish dudes, Pedro Carbonell. He ended up actually taking the comp out after a Brazilian fellow led on the first day, and Pedro sort of ran over the top. And there was. We hooked up. We obviously spent a lot of time with the Kiwis. We actually shacked up with the South Africans. Great bunch of fellas. There was a young guy there, Jaco. Don't know how to pronounce his surname. Jaco Lignell.
Yeah.
He was there and had a great.
He would have been young then.
He was young,
because he's
he did
gun
well.
now, isn't he?
He is a gun, and he was a gun then. He was a really young, little skinny fella.
Yeah.
Hope he doesn't mind me saying that. And
his brother lives up in Tweed now, Conrad.
Oh, really?
As well, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, and I had some great experience, and he was a gun little diver, and in fact, I think he landed in the top 10.
Yeah, wow. What an achievement.
Oh, brilliant. And he was only like, I don't know what he was. He's probably 20 years old. And I remember I dived the first day of the comp, and then Gunther came in for me, and I boated for Arnie. And we were on this location that Arnie had found, scouted, and it was a bommy in about 20 metres, and Yucko was there too. So there was those two guys diving this spot. And Arnie, I remember, I've never seen it done before. Arnie can equalise hands-free. And he came up from this, he had grabbed a couple of fish off this rock. He's gone, righto, we've got a couple of different types of fish here. One that I hit the bottom and they're holding up and they're hanging around, and I need a little gun. But there's others that are zipping off onto the sand, and I need a longer gun. So give me another gun. And I thought, all right, going to change it up. So I gave him another gun. I thought, I'll take the one that he's already got. No, he's going to dive with two guns. So Arnie's dropping to the bottom, and once he hits the rocks, he's laying there and he's working out, rightio, which gun am I? I don't know if he was ambidextrous or not, but he did all right. He got quite a few fish off there, and that's where that the young South African fella got most of his fish too. In fact, it was a great little spot, and I'll always remember him. He was those South African fellas were really nice blokes.
Yeah. Culturally, sometimes there's not a lot of difference. I mean, we do make a lot of it, like, but very similar work ethic, and and probably pretty cool to hang out with, I'd imagine.
Very cool. Yeah.
Is that one of the sort of the pleasures of doing an international comp? It's kind of, you still all share the same passion of spearing, but then it's all the differences that kind of probably make it interesting.
It is, and you hear all the stories from all the different countries about their fish, but I don't know. I guess we tended to be drawn, if you like, to the Kiwis. That's just
Who was in the team for the Kiwis that year? Can you remember?
There was Darren was there. I don't remember if Darren. I don't remember if Darren dived or whether he was managing, and I know Herb was there.
Yeah.
So not Dwayne, Peter Herbert.
Yeah.
Dwayne's dad.
Yeah.
He was in the comp. Shane Fitzpatrick might have been there.
Yeah. That's Pat Swanson's mate.
Yeah. I think he was there. I don't remember.
I think he lives in Aussie now.
Yeah. Wasn't he in WA for a while?
I don't know. Pat's tried to hook me up for an interview with him. I've got to get it done. Like some of these guys that have had their time competing at an international level, they're a bit like yourself. There's always plenty of stories.
I probably got the bug. I've been to 2 world titles now, but the first one was back in '96, and me and Rachel just got married, and we packed up, we put our backpacks on, and we went, right, we're going around the world. Put the tent in the backpack, and off we went. And I noticed that there happened to be a world titles on in Spain at a particular time on this trip, and somehow our itinerary seemed to line up. I don't know how that worked. Rachel never worked it out, but we turned up at the world titles.
Was this Med side or Atlantic?
This was on the Atlantic side, on the north coast.
Fistea or San Sebastian sort of area?
Started with G, but you don't say it as a G. I can't remember the name. Anyway,
north of sort of Portugal there.
Yeah, on the northern coast.
Okay.
Similar location, I think, to where they held some stuff recently. It sounded like just up the road by the sound. And we turned up, and in the Aussie team there was Pucko's been in every bloody Aussie team, I think. Pucko, and there was Rob Torelli. I think there was Andy Ruddick. Gunther might have even been there. I can't remember. But anyway, I sort of hung around with those fellas, and again hung around with the Kiwis. And as it turned out, Darren Shields needed a boaty. So happy days, because what you'd do, you'd get allocated a boat, and some little Spanish dude would be driving the boat, and you'd be in there with him. And these guys can't speak English. So it was really, really challenging. So I ended up hand gesturing with whatever his name was for 2 or 3 days, boating for Darren. And what a diver. It was hard work, big swell, filthy water. Darren had done a lot of scouting, but in the conditions we had, it just wasn't going to happen. So he pretty well found some stuff in about 20, 25 metres, and he just went up and down, up and down, up and down in about 3 metre viz all day.
Far out.
And he ended up nailing a few fish, and he did all right. I think he was in the top 15 or so. So
yeah, that's pretty cool, eh?
Yeah.
Because, a lot of those countries that are really highly competitive, they do it different. Like it's an all year round thing for them. Big sponsorships involved.
You can't compete with some of those teams, the European teams, where they're turning up literally months in advance, fully funded, all their boats, all their gear, they're marking every, they're on it. Not taking anything away from them. No, they are awesome divers, ridiculous. That's all they do, and they're very, very good at it.
When you're around some of these other divers, what are some of the biggest differences between some of these top end guys and just us down under blokes?
I think they have the time and so they can put. That's number one. But when it comes to their diving, well, I look at myself and I'm a very average free diver. I think I got plenty of that fish sense, and that's what I've sort of makes up for it for me. But like you said earlier, I don't dive past 20 meters anymore. I get a lung squeeze, and that just doesn't. I don't do it. So, but these fellas can hit the bot. So they've got both. They've got the fish sense. They've been doing it long enough, but they've also got that free diving capability, and they can go down and they can literally lay on the bottom, like not only get there, but literally fish 30, 40 meters. And if you can do that, you're going to be a gun, aren't you? And on top of that, they're very good with their small fish technique in not only cavey stuff in white water, but right out to 40 meters. Like they'll pull fish out of caves. And when you're in a comp where you've got a relatively small area and 80 blokes running around, you better know how to pull fish out of holes or you're not getting anything, because that's where they're going pretty quick. So they're very, very good at that. And it's been different experience over here. A lot more of the diving over here is in caves, and that's where we're finding most of the fish. In Coffs, we just don't have that structure. So, there's little ledges and bits and pieces, but a lot of the fish we're shooting off the bottom, but in more open water and not in caves.
I'm going to ask you two questions I don't normally ask people, but I want to hear your thoughts on what makes a good buddy and what makes a good boaty. But before that, I would love to hear a funny story from you. And you know what I like, but it's up to you what you want to share.
So I'm gonna drop my dad in it.
Are you allowed to do that?
Oh, I don't know. He's hard of hearing now, so maybe I'll have to put headphones on him to get him to listen to this.
Okay.
But we were out chasing a few mackerel one day at a location called Groper, and we call it the Chapel, and it was called the Chapel because it's the place that Mum and Dad split up a long time ago, and we reckon that's the only place he's ever going to get remarried to. And yeah, it's a really unfortunate story because in terms of that location, because it's been closed down now for what I say no good reason, because it's a Spanish mackerel location, full stop. There's not much else there. But anyway, that's another story. And we're anchored up this day, and there was a bit of current running from one direction and a bit of wind against it, and so your boat's sort of hovering in a bit of a weird way, sort of side onto everything. And Dad goes, I need to take a dump. All right, so he's dropped the wetsuit in the water, away you go. And the wind's sort of blowing back almost into the boat. You can see it coming, can't you? And he jumps back in the boat, and we're like, all right, we'll have a bit of a feed. And he's sitting there, and he's like, has a bit of a feed, and he's like, something smells. Something wrong with this sandwich. And we had a bit of a look, and we're going, Dad, you got a bit on your face. And he thought we meant food. So he's gone.
Just smeared shit all over his face.
All over his face. He could not work it out. It's one of the funniest things. We've had a few fun goes in that spot. I remember just another story when I was a little kid and in the same location, and not so funny for me watching. I speared, I was probably 10, and I speared a wobbegong. I thought, this is pretty cool. And I'm towing it back to the boat, and apparently it's behind there snapping at my fins. So Dad's gone down to try to sort it out, and the wobbegong's gone, chomp. Grabbed his hand.
Oh.
And you think those things let go once they're on?
Yeah.
We were literally back in the boat, levering this thing off his hand. He's just full of bullet holes.
Far out.
Poor bugger. But yeah, I had to drop Dad in it. Dad, and I've had some great experiences with Dad and my uncle Alan, who are in Coffs and have been there for 50, 60 years now probably. And my other uncle Russell, who's in New Zealand, he's they're all in their 80s now. Alan is still spearing Spanish to this day.
Yeah?
He's 83, I think.
Oh, I love that.
Sorry, Al, to drop you your age there. But these guys have guns, and they just love it. They froth on it. My Uncle Russell in New Zealand won a couple of odd New Zealand titles, individual titles. My old man and him won the pairs once or twice.
That's amazing.
They were great competitors back in the day, and I know the whole family's into it. Russell's kids, I know Darren Shields actually said to me once, and this is a pretty big call, he said, Paul, my cousin Russell's son, is the best diver he's ever dived with.
Wow.
And that's a pretty neat thing. Paul never really got into the competitions. He was just a cruisy diver, but he's an awesome diver.
Yeah, righto. That's very cool. All right, I said I was going to ask you about what makes a good buddy and what makes a good boaty. So even if it's just 3 things that you think makes a good buddy, I would love to hear what you love in a good buddy.
A good buddy will have your back, like watch you, and you're probably not asking the right person.
That's okay.
because I'm a bit of a loner in the water. and like I said, I love to just swim off and just be in my own space.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I've come to the realisation that that's not the smartest thing. You probably get a bit smarter as you get older. And with my boys, of course, that's the last thing that I'm looking for. So having your back, like knowing where you are.
Yep.
Like literally, number one, just knowing where you are and not even if you're not necessarily in sight. And one of the reasons I've got away with it, and I'm happy and I'm comfortable with that, is because I don't dive deep, and so we're not taking any of those risks. If you're diving anywhere over 20 metres, you don't do it without a mate, and that's what I'm teaching my boys. And Bo's hitting beyond that pretty quick now. So second one is I guess just that knowledge. Like you got to think the same. And if you can be comfortable that that person has the experience that, when you shoot a fish and you've got, say, some sharks on it, that they're going to be able to know how to react and they're not going to turn and swim the other way. That's pretty useful.
Yep.
So, and then, when I'm diving with a buddy, I love to be able to dive with someone who I think I said, thinks similar to me and has similar capability is nice.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't have great freediving capability, but when you've got someone who thinks the same and can find fish, and you work together, and again, Bo, I'm finding now he's spotting fish before me, and
yeah, right.
That is an epic quality.
Yeah,
that's a massive quality in a Spearo to be able to literally just see fish.
Yeah,
because that's a big part of the battle. A lot of people just swim straight over things.
Well, that's what I think too. I almost think when I'm teaching hunting techniques, it's more about finding the fish, seeing the fish, and then generally, if they're a difficult fish, you bugger them up a few times before you work out a good, effective strategy for them. So, but finding them, being able to see them, is most of the battle. And I listen to Tim McDonald, he loves shooting good fish out of big schools of fish, and those schools though they're effective for deterring predators by confusion, and it works on us just the same as it does on them. But most of us don't realise it, and there's a real discipline to being able to use your eyes. So it's cool he's developed that skill set.
Oh, totally, and it's just that little fin swish or something. Every fish moves different, and if you can pick that, you're a long way on the way. So,
good boaty.
Good boaty. Number one, know where you are at all times. Know where everyone is at all times. We had a pretty interesting experience. Sorry, Al, I'm going to drop you in it again. My uncle and the old man and I were drifting, and Al was, you find you've got things to do in the boat.
Yeah,
probably
cleaning blood and guts up
something
or whatever
it is. Yeah, and lost sight of us, and we were bobbing away, and we were pretty well swimming for the island. Probably half an hour later, by the time he actually found us, and that's we were fine. We knew what we were doing, and you need to know how to react to that stuff, and you got to stay calm. You don't. There's no panic in it. We know the ocean. I don't panic in the ocean anymore.
Did you ever think about having one of those big blow-up safety sausages? I've talked about it a fair bit. Bert's making some up at the moment.
Not bad. I haven't thought of it. And
they stand up vertical and they take bugger all air to fill them up. And you can fold them up and chuck them in a pocket. And then, because a lot of people have got mirrors and whistles and something colourful, especially if you're not diving with a float. But a lot of us are diving reel guns these days, and the flasher floats are not really big enough to stand out when the sea state's up. No,
when the sea state's up, that's the real trick. You've got to be so careful. I'm so wary with my kids, and we were diving with reels that day, as I more often than not do. But I see when we get out, we do a bit of chasing a few dolphin fish with the boys as well. And when you're out there and it's blowing 15 and it's white capping, and I don't like people getting in beyond the water with just a reel in those locations. Yeah. That can be hectic because if you get lost there, you're not coming home.
Even with a float and flag, it's like they get beyond 100 metres when it's white capping. Very, very easy to lose them.
So easy.
Especially with sun and, there are those days where sometimes there's boaties. I'm cutting your grass here, but I feel like boaties have to be assertive too. If you got two buddy pairs out and they're fucking too far apart, I'm sorry, someone's moving.
Yep.
But that can be hard call to make. If you're a 16-year-old boatie and you've got, a pair of 40-year-olds out there and a pair of 50-year-olds out there, very hard to be assertive enough to go, all right, you guys are getting back on the boat. We're moving over to them. Because you can't really negotiate. Someone's doing it.
And you can't always control that. But what I always do is before we'll get in the water, we'll have a talk to the boatie.
Yep.
And we'll go, rightio, this is the plan. This is what we're doing, And there's nothing worse than not having a clue and people just swimming off randomly in different directions. And that's the worst nightmare for a boatie. And for a boatie, you've just, I think you're right. You have to be assertive, but have a plan in place. So have a talk with the divers before you start and know what's going on. I think that's super important. And then just the basic stuff, the signals like gun up, come and get me quick, smart, and just to be reactive, just to know. You've also got to be just simple stuff too, and I probably have to think about this more because of the boys, or I had to over the years. They're great now and they're as good as anyone in handling a boat. But you want to be really comfortable with that because that can go pear-shaped pretty quick too. Yeah.
Like teaching anyone all those little skills, you have to invest a little bit of time and you can't really be lazy with it. Half the time you learn how to teach someone because you see someone do the wrong thing, I think, which is partly why I asked you the question so we can all learn from it. I love it when a boatie gets between us and whoever's coming towards us in another boat. To me, that's a massive one. Just
massive. And especially, again, reel guns, mate. You think about when you're underwater, no one knows where you are.
Yeah.
It's another one that, that's such an important one. And I've had I've known a few odd people in my part of the world that have, or particularly in Sydney way, that have had some life-changing run-ins with boats. And you've got to be so on it. And we're really cautious about where we dive when we're diving with a reel.
Yep.
And we do tend to dive, we tend to anchor up if the current's not too nasty because, as I've said, the way I like to fish things like Spanish is to put myself in a spot. So I like preferably to be able to find myself that location and then just relax and start just working that location. And it's nice. That's what I really like about that sort of stuff with the mackerel too. It's actually relaxing. You get cold. You're trying to get that heart rate down. You're trying to just be really just in the zone. Nothing else in your head but you and the fish. It's great.
I've already got my episode title for this. It's going to be Shooting Mackerel in a Puddle with Glenn George. I thought Tom gifted me a nice one there. To make the most of your spearfishing trip, charter or competition, I am putting together a 50-day Spear Ready program so that I can be in the best condition to make the most of this WA comp. It's a big swim comp, shore-based, and big swims for the day. I am not carrying a hell of a lot of physical conditioning because just due to my life and lifestyle. It's a 50-day program incorporating strength and conditioning, nutrition, dry and pull training, and everything else with a bunch of experts. I reached out to a whole bunch of legends I know, like Adam Stern, Jared Rosenberg, strength and conditioning coach, and we put together this program basically to get the most out of our bodies and make the most of these opportunities. Sometimes they're only once in a lifetime. You really want to arrive in the best possible condition that you can be. So Spear Ready, 50-day program to help you gear up. Go register noobspearo.com/Spear Ready.
If your buddy had a blackout on your next spearfishing trip, think, what would the outcome of that be? Do you know how to revive someone from a blackout? Would you even be in a position to do something about it? Or would you be diving, chasing after a fish as your buddy sinks down to the bottom of the ocean? Do you know where most blackouts happen? Do you know what you can do to minimize your risk of having a blackout? My name is Ted Hardy, and I'm the founder of freedivingsafety.com. In my free online course, you will learn the truth about shallow water blackout, the myth of, I don't push myself, I know my limits, I'm in tune with my body, how to minimize your risk of having a blackout, and most importantly, how to save your buddy's life if they have one. Visit freedivingsafety.com to sign up for your free course today. Dive safe out there. It's not even that hard.
Was there anything that we missed chatting about today that you would like to touch on? Because I always overlook something. I don't know all of the diving that you've done. You've been doing it for such a long time. I always find that there's a story that was left untold or a bit of wisdom that I didn't quite get to.
I think that the best wisdom I can give is to slow down and just enjoy the moment. And slowing down, enjoying the moment is nice, but slowing down is how you make it work in spearfishing. You've got to be relaxed in the water. That makes all the difference. And I learned a lot from an old mate of mine, Greg Smith, from the Tweed. He an awesome diver back in his day, and I'm no doubt he still is. And slow. Everything from leaving the surface is slow-mo, and it works. And it works not only for your fishing and your hunting, but it works for you physically.
Yeah.
You can extend your time enormously, and you can do pretty simple stuff in the pool to ground truth that. You sit in a pool and sit there and hold your breath for however long you like, 30 seconds, a minute 30, whatever you're comfortable with, before
Doing a swim.
It's not that much harder. It is amazing how that relaxation.
We call that delay training, and we do it in the middle of a swim too sometimes. So like in the Spear Ready program, there's a little bit of it too. But yeah, we call that a first stage delay. So you do a static for, even if it's just 10 seconds, and then you might do 50 meters swim after it, and then you go, all right, 10 seconds was good, I'll do 15. And
play with it.
Yeah.
With a buddy.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing I wanted to touch on. Like with pool training these days, so many pools have been burned by cowboys going in there, training, maybe with no training, hyperventilating, and just pushing it without a buddy. And then that's how we all get kicked out of pools and none of us can access it. So if you are doing pool training, please go with a buddy.
Oh, and look, we're so lucky in Coffs. We're blessed in our club. We've got some great people. We've got 2 or 3 or 4 qualified freediving instructors.
Yeah.
The likes of Tom and Angus and Louise.
Yeah.
And great blokes. And every once a week, there's a couple of times a week actually in different locations. There's they run training sessions out of the goodness of their hearts, and it's epic.
Talk to me about clubs. Let's end the interview on this note, but let's talk about clubs. You've been a president before. You've been active in clubs, and probably you've increased and decreased your participation based on your life and all the rest of it, because that's the reality of life. But talk to me about how important clubs are and why people should join them.
Well, it's the ground up stuff, isn't it? It's getting spearfishing is a really challenging and dare I say it, risky. It is a risky sport, right? So there are risks in it, and you need to know how to manage those risks. And if you can manage those risks, happy days. And I'm perfectly comfortable, bringing up my boys in spearfishing because I think I've got a pretty good understanding of how to manage those risks. But spearfishing is like it takes such a it's such a big learning curve, and there's so many aspects. It's endless. We've talked today about sharks, about free diving training, competing, conditions,
hunting.
Knowing where to find the fish, starting point. First thing I do when I get up in the morning and I launch the boat is, rightio, I've got to assess the conditions. And number one, things like current. We get a lot of current at home, and depending on where it's running, it completely changes my dive day. And I almost never plan the full dive day until I'm out there and I know what's going on. You need to be able to switch it up and change things. And clubs will fast track that stuff for you. So you'll get in with a like-minded group of people. You'll get in with people who have enormous experience and they can point you in the right direction. And, I was really lucky when I grew up. I had my family and they were already into it. And so it came almost naturally. But I see so many young fellas coming through who just don't have that. They don't have that opportunity. And the clubs will give you that opportunity. So it's really worth chasing.
Awesome. All right, go and join a spearfishing club, guys. Up at noobspearo.com on the menu there. There is a club connections page. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. There's probably a club there somewhere. The Coffs Harbor, Blue Water Freedivers. Amazing club culture there. Glenn is one part of it. And so many good people down there. I'm staying with a bunch of these guys at the moment. And very cool vibe, very cool to be around, and awesome to be around some experienced spearos and hear some good lessons learned and some wicked stories. Thanks for teaching us how to shoot mackerel in a puddle, Glenn.
You're welcome, mate, anytime. Come to Coffs anytime.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed Glenn George. Again, another Spearo sort of flies under the radar. You probably haven't heard his name, but as you can tell after a full interview with him, an incredibly knowledgeable guy, really down to earth, super fun to hang out with. And I would love to get in the water with him down there and just pick his brain because he's obviously got the mackerel tuned up. And I don't think we even got to all of the tips that he had for it in today's episode, but I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, guys, massive thanks to the Patreon legends putting fuel in the Noob Spearo outboard. If you want to join them, go to patreon.com/Noob Spearo. Always grateful. There's about 49 frothers at the moment putting fuel in there and helping keep this sucker afloat. If you want to help out in other ways, reviews, wherever you listen to the podcast, I think 200 odd people have left 5-star reviews on Spotify. Apple have got a bunch of written reviews and 5-star reviews on there. I really appreciate you guys doing that. Haven't read a good funny one out for at least a couple of months. So if you're up for it, do that. And as usual, if you tell your mates about it, that's massive too. Guys, next week, I'm going to try and tell you a bit more about Spear Ready. It's our online training to help you make the most of a spearfishing trip of a lifetime. If you do want to check it out, go to noobspearo.com and click on the Spear Ready program. You can kind of get in there and have a bit of a look around. But what it is it's pretty much a 50-day program involving strength and conditioning, apnea training, pool or dry, as well as interval training and a bunch of other stuff as well, and advice videos from legends if you are gearing up and aiming at a trip. Again, check that out at noobspearo.com. I'll tell you a bit more about it in next episode. But hey, thanks for listening today, guys, and I hope you enjoyed Glenn George. You can't follow him on social media, unfortunately, but it's cool that we've got these gems, these people hidden away in our spearfishing community. And yeah, I can't believe someone asked me a little while ago, aren't you going to run out of people to chat with? And it's like, I've got a spreadsheet with at least 400 more names on it from recommendations from people listening to the podcast just like you. So, hey, thanks for making this thing what it is. That's Shrek, over and out. I remember the first time a shark took my Spanish mackerel. The delight of getting close enough to plant a shot mid-body was soon supplanted by the disappointment of a slack regline as I pulled in my spear gun with nothing to show for it. That moment is captured in every bit of Fuck the Taxman gear, from UV-resistant long-sleeve fish shirts like Not My First Rodeo jersey, right through to Death and Tax's beach towels. Get amongst it all at fuckthetaxman.com. Tongue-in-cheek gear that only spearos and fish shows really understand. Right now, get a free hat of your choice when you spend $100 or more at fuckthetaxman.com. Check it out again, fuckthetaxman.com. Use the code NoobSpearo and get yourself a free hat of your choice when you spend more than $100.
Buying gear online can be tricky. You ask yourself the same questions. Will it arrive on time? Is it actually what I want? How much is the shipping going to cost? Great news, the name you can trust is Neptonics. Neptonics, solid gear that works. Visit Neptonics, buy tough gear. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. That's right, use the code NOOB10, N-O-O-B 10, to save 10% on your order at neptonics.com.
Hey, live it, breathe it with today's show sponsor, Adreno. They are the world's largest dive store, and they have an ever-growing range of equipment for frothers just like you. The store is staffed by legends who absolutely live and breathe the spearfishing lifestyle. Check it out. They have hassle-free returns. They've got a price match guarantee in Australia and always flat rate shipping, and you can even use Afterpay. Check them out at adreno.com.au. Noob Spearo's longest running partner. Massive thanks to them who keep powering the Noob Spearo podcast.